Hey, good evening. Today's Bible study comes from Matthew chapter 27, verses 62 through 66, and this will end chapter 27 of the book of Matthew. The next day, one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. Sir, they said, we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, after 3 days I will rise again. So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he had been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first. Take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb as secure as you know how. So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. Wow. Them dudes was all in the wrong mindset of what was about to occur. And what they were looking for was not what was going to happen. So you can see now the old enemies of Jesus were badgered by second thoughts about what was said earlier. The request that they wanted was to send a guard over to the tomb to show that they were fully aware of the prophecy that Christ would rise again. They remember it, that he had told it to them, and the only one that this would serve and the only one that this could serve would have to be Satan. These were some evil men, and to actually try to stop it, they couldn't, and they didn't even understand what it was. The day after the preparation, well, this talks about the request made on the Passover itself, I should say. Um, and there were difficult questions regarding the day of the week on which these events took place. We don't know that, but if you look at Matthew 26 and 17, it states, if it doesn't take too long, it states, hold on one second. I'm going to have to look it up in my Bible again, which I don't mind. And let me do some work. Matthew 26 and 17 says, now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, go into the city to such a man and say unto him, the master said, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. So it didn't give you a day or anything like that. It just told you what was going to happen, how it was going to occur. Saying, sir, we remember that the deceiver said while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. First of all, they call Jesus the deceiver, of all people to call a deceiver. Um, the Pharisees were trying to make sure that he got no recognition, that there was nothing that he could do. They were trying to make sure this faith thing did not spread the way that he had said it should be. So what did they do? Well, they became man again. And if you look in verse 64, so give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. They were going to do everything in their power to make sure that that tomb didn't have anybody coming out of it. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. Once again, they had a bad idea of what was going on. They thought this was a physical thing that the disciples could do and that they could guard and everything else. But this was not a physical thing. This was a spiritual thing. And what they were looking to do, they had no control over. And they even thought this last deception will be worse than the first. Because, see, they said earlier, they called Jesus the deceiver, but he was never the deceiver. They were being deceived, but it was never by Christ. So they said, take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb as secure as you know how. So we going to go and do any physical thing we can do, but we don't realize that we are working in spiritual now. So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. You needed something that was spiritual, and you didn't have it. We didn't have it. We were thinking in the flesh, and Jesus was operating in the spirit. We couldn't touch what the Lord had planned and prepared for this day and this situation. But man being man, we thought we could. So putting that guard at the tomb did nothing because it was not physical. It was spiritual. And even if it would have been physical, as Jesus said, you don't think I can call on my Father's angels and have thousands upon thousands here? So just to let you know, this wasn't a physical thing. The guard went to the tomb because the Pharisees didn't understand what they called the deceiver, Jesus the Christ, had told them earlier. So they thought that we're not going to let anything else spread by these disciples going there and taking this body out of there, which was false because the disciples weren't going to take the body. This was a spiritual thing. And once again, you can see man not paying attention to the Lord's word led them astray here, even because they went to do something in the physical, and this was all about the spiritual. Amen.